This is episode 88, Identity and 5 Ways to Tell Who You're Not. Welcome to Alive by Design. My name is Blake Mallon, and we're here to bring you inspiring people, principles, and practices to help you wake up, move toward your meant to, and feel fully alive. Open your mind and let's dive in. Hey guys, before you listen to the podcast, I just want to drop in and say I appreciate you for being here, and I'm super excited about this new Walk With Me series. These are solo episodes where I take some time in the middle of my morning run through the Santa Monica Mountains to share some inspired ideas and thoughts on my mind and heart. If you want to join me for any of these conversations live, you can catch me many mornings on my Facebook page, facebook.com/BlakeMallon.page. Would love to see you there. Love you guys. Enjoy the episode. Walk with me. Identity. Our identity. That's the concept on my mind this morning. Sounds like a deep one, huh? I think this is going to be one of the more valuable conversations that we've all had together. So important all the time, and especially at this time. And what I mean by identity is that constant internal search for who are we really? I mean, deep down at our core, who are you? Yeah, you. I want to know you. I want you to know you. You know, one of the blessings in disguise over this crazy last year and a half pandemic period we've all gone through is it's completely shattered a lot of our normal routines, a lot of our consistent behaviors, and in doing so, forcing us also to shatter a lot of the patterns or belief systems or thoughts that used to run maybe automatically or unconsciously. And in that shattering, after we pick ourselves up off the floor, it gives us a chance to reevaluate how we put them back together. Were they in the place we wanted them to be in the first place? And an opportunity maybe to reshape some of the things that drive who we are every day. And in that, there's definitely been a lot of conversation in at least kind of the personal growth, self-awareness category. I know I'm a student there. I know many of you are. I'm in a lot of conversations from so many amazing thought leaders on just the importance of being true to yourself, right? Self-awareness, self-love, being your authentic self. A lot of dialogue around the power of just authenticity, vulnerability. These are all themes or conversations that I think have elevated over the last year and a half, which I think is awesome because I think they're conversations we need to be having and need to be thinking. And all of these I kind of group under this kind of just core pillar, so to speak. They're all talking about identity, who are we? And how do we continue to live in a way that is true to our natural nature? For those of you guys that plug into my conversations or community, I'm sure you've heard me say at some point that we need to first stop trying to be who everybody else has told us we're supposed to be in order to become the person we're meant to be. And I talk a lot because I'm kind of personally obsessed over this shift of moving away from this supposed to, this expectation, to this meant to, who we were designed or created to be. All this topic of identity. I said that in my TED Talk. Total side note disclaimer, because I'm just excited. Recently passed over 1 million views, which is insane to me. on my TED Talk. So thank you for all of you that are some of those views. Huge thanks to those of you that have shared it with people you care about that led to some of those views. It's an awesome milestone. If you haven't watched it or need a refresher, just go to the TED website, TED.com, search my name. You can find it. Leave some comments, or shiftthescript.com gets you right there. And if you haven't plugged in, do so, give it a share. I appreciate all of that. That message is really more than my story, it's my mission. And I love getting that idea out to the world. And a lot of that conversation is about this identity concept that I want to dive deeper into today. But meant to, okay? Let's be practical. We've all heard we need to be our authentic self. We need to stop maybe chasing the validation or approval of others. We need to stop falling into this perceived perfection that others create around us and be true to who we are. Which begs the question, like, how in the heck do we do that? How do I know? Blake, I've been around for a while. Got a lot of these layers. I know I'm in there, but where and how do I find it? So I want to talk about maybe some things that'll help us just give a little check-in, a little realignment. Shedding away this supposed to layer that might be thick and getting to the meant to that I want to see and I want you to see. And to do so, I got 5 conversations, 5 questions, 5 tips, 5 things that I know will help you know who you're not in order to get to who you are. So let's talk about this conversation, guys. I think this is going to be an important one. I think it's going to be a relevant one for you. I think it's going to be a critical one probably for people in your life that you're going to want to share this with or help them with this journey. Identity is about as important as it gets as we dive into the core of ripping away this supposed to and getting to this meant to. And to do that, guys, I'm going to take an inverse approach. I'm sure we've all had dialogue on how we really try to find kind of who we are and the importance of identifying our values, what we stand for. We've talked a lot about identifying kind of our priorities, what we want to focus on. We've had a lot of previous conversations on that side of the coin. You can catch up again on the podcast. I want to flip the coin over because sometimes in order to get to what we're looking for, it's easier to take the inverse approach and talk about what we're not. Here's one thing I know we are not. You are not. And that is, you are not what you do. You guys, I start with that one because so often, especially in America, we associate who we are with what we do. I mean, just think about how you answer the question, hey, tell me about yourself. And the first thing we say is what we do, right? Well, or I work for, or this is what I do. We so closely identify our identity, who we are with what we do every single day for work or career or an income. You know, so many people over time start to kind of blur the line between who we are and what we do, and they become one on the same. Matter of fact, what we do becomes our identity. I'm a doctor, or I'm an entrepreneur, or I'm a this, or I'm a that. And all of a sudden, guys, that becomes who we think we are. Now, don't misunderstand me. I believe we need to align who we are with what we do, just for the mere bottom line fact we're going to spend most of our life doing that. Just the nature of needing an income to survive and provide. We're going to need to work, put effort in a direction. And if we're going to invest that much of our life, I believe it should be in alignment with things we value, what we're passionate about, the contribution we're able to make, the skills and strengths that we have. And that should be your goal, is to create alignment. But even with the most perfect alignment, what we do is not who we are. You guys, the reason this is such a critical point is because inevitably, for most people, you are going to change what you do a few times, if not more, in your life. And if you tie your identity so tightly to what you do, that's going to be a very radical shift. Matter of fact, a lot of the maybe struggle people have gone through in the last year is just that. By the nature of the pandemic, shattering structures we're used to living by, literally collapsing businesses, categories, right? Because of the circumstance. So many people are in a situation where you're going to have to shift what you do. And if you're so closely holding on to what you do as who you are, that's going to be a radical shift. That's going to jar you. Because that's why a lot of people, when they shift what they do, right, maybe go through a downtime, a time of stress or fear or anxiety or depression, it's not because there's not opportunity, guys. There's so much opportunity in the world today. There's a million ways to make $1 million. It's not the shift in needing to provide opportunity or stability or financial certainty. Guys, you bring a desire, a work ethic, a willingness, an aptitude to learn, a passion in a direction, you're going to settle that. But it's the identity association we have that makes that difficult. Guys, what you do is not who you are. What you do might be a role you're in. It might be a project you have. It might even be a passion you're on, right? If you're lucky. It's not just about the money, it's about the mission. All of that can be true, but that is not the same as who you are. So the first thing you need to know you're not what you do. Here's what else you're not. You're not what you own. Guys, this is an important one, right? How often do we find ourselves slipping into associating who we are with things we own? Our address or our zip code. Our identity is tied to where we live. Oh, you live in that area or that area. I live in this area or this area. The car we drive. Often we try to attach an identity to even the car that we drive, representing who we are. The watch on your wrist, the shoes on your feet, the purse on your shoulder. You got to be careful, because sometimes it's the very things that we own that end up owning us. Owning us because we start to associate an identity to them, which is never ending. Guys, it's a slippery slope when you go down the thing route. And it's a hard one to battle. Don't get me wrong, right? Such an easy, quick dopamine release. Hit the buy button, add to cart, right? Check out, boom. Same type of dopamine you get when you're doing certain drugs or certain things. Like, guys, it's an addictive thing, but we buy, we consume, we gather, and don't misunderstand. I'm all for nice things, right? I enjoy nice things, right? I have a lot of nice things. I'm as guilty as any one of us in buying often way too many, right, things. But guys, it becomes a danger when we start to, again, create that tie with what we own to who we are and our identity. We start to tie our own self-esteem to the things that we own. And instead of us owning them, they start to own us. And it's never ending. Slippery slope. I've had seasons in my life where I was really bad at this, where anytime I thought of something, it was a quick voice note to my assistant and they would buy it and it would show up. Boom, that feeling. Imagine every time you thought about wanting something, right? Taking action on it. It sounds like fun, but I'm telling you, it leads to a slippery negative slope. Slippery negative slope. So guys, I'm positive you are not what you own. And you got to be careful not to associate your own self-worth or self-value or identity to anything. Number 3, here's what else I know you're not. You are not your achievements. You're not. I'm not. We're not. We are not our achievements. We are not our past or current results. We are not a scoreboard. We're not a number of commas on a bank account balance. We're not a number of dollars on a sales line. We're not a shelf of trophies, right, in your house. We are not our achievements. Now, again, don't misunderstand me. Guys, I am an achiever by nature, as many of you. I'm all for goal setting. I'm all for setting priorities. I'm all for doing all we can do, the best we can do. I'm all for challenging ourselves to raise our standards. I'm all for winning and celebrating, guys. I think we need those things to keep us focused and keep us on track. I'm not saying, hey, you don't have all of these things, you don't progress, guys. The value of life is growth, is progress, is pushing our limits, is expansion, all of that. But you do not cross the line where you start to associate your own identity to your achievements. Guys, here's the honest reality. You know this to be true. Sometimes we can do everything right, and the outcome is still wrong. Not what we want. Sometimes we can do everything wrong, and somehow the outcome is right and exactly what we want. Guys, sometimes what we do, the activities or actions that we take, do not necessarily directly tie to the immediate result. I was having this conversation yesterday on kind of a mentor call or coaching call with one of the entrepreneurs in our community, and she wasn't happy with where the results were on the scoreboard over the last year and a half. And I had to stop her. I said, wait a minute, right? Number one, I don't think anybody in any category is perfectly happy with the results over the last year and a half. You got to imagine what the world has gone through, what we have gone through over the last year and a half. So give yourself some grace. But number two, and I asked yourself this question, I said, tell me about you, who you were a year and a half ago, and tell me about you, who you are now. And is the you of today different than the you of a year and a half ago? In your skills, in your experience, in your knowledge, in your wisdom, in knowing what doesn't work and knowing what does work? Have you grown, progressed, gotten better? Yes. Well, that's the growth over the last year and a half, not the scoreboard. You guys see, who you are is not tied to the results you have in the past or the present. You can't identify identity based on a metric. Our self-value, our self-worth is not based on a metric, right? Who you are is not based on how many views you got on a video or likes you got on a post. It's not based on a metric. Who you are is not based on a dollar per hour or dollar per year. It's not based on a metric. Your identity is not tied to an outcome. They are different things. We need to be true to who we are, take action in alignment with what we stand for, be consistent, bring a passion, right? Do it in contribution. And in my experience, you do that consistently long enough, the world is going to reward you. You're going to end up getting results. Sometimes they come directly, sometimes they come indirectly. Over time, you got to have faith that if you're true to yourself in the direction, you're going to get to the life that's meant for you, but they're not directly tied, and you can't tie your identity to it. Number 4, here's who I know you're not. You are not what society or culture create this perfect picture of who you have to be. You are not culture's perfect expectation. You're not who culture, society wants you to be as the perfect man or perfect woman or perfect dad or perfect mom or perfect friend or perfect family member or perfect employee or perfect boss. You are not. You know who else isn't? Nobody is that. You're not. And you can't try to tie your identity constantly chasing a perfection lie. And we've talked about this in past conversations. It is a lie. It doesn't exist. Yet this lie is pervasive, right? This lie is a part of us. And this lie often tricks us into thinking our identity needs to be all of this at every level, and you're not. Nobody is. and you can't associate your identity to it. At every level, funny stories. So my son Grayson, right, he's about 5.5, started playing t-ball. Finally this year. Last year we signed him up, got canceled. This year he's playing t-ball. First year, didn't really fully understand baseball as a game. Total side note, you don't realize how complicated the rules of baseball are until you try to get a 5-year-old to understand all of them. Took him to a first Dodger game recently, just to try to get him to understand the game. Was an absolute blast. Obviously, he was more interested in the cotton candy and the Dodger dogs than he was the actual game, but so be it. It was a fun family outing. But I see what happens with myself when, like, he goes up to bat in t-ball, and they're combining. They try to hit him off the coach pitch for 3-5 pitches, and if they don't hit off the pitch, then they go to the tee, and I find myself sitting there being nervous, right? Hoping my son hits off the pitch, and if he doesn't hit off the pitch, then somehow I'm not the perfect dad, because I must not be doing my job if my 5-year-old son can't hit off a pitch. And what's funny is I feel these thoughts going through myself when I watch them, but I see it going through all of the dads on the field when their kids are up. Most of them, maybe not all of them. But to this funny example of how we put this pressure of standards that are unrealistic and they're not identity. Because the last thing I'll share with you today, number 5, is you are not beyond just society or culture or kind of the faceless community out there. You're also not who the people closest to you want you to be. Because this is often some of the hardest, because we create our own perception of what other people's perception is of us. I'll say that again. Right? We often create a perception, and it's a perception or a projection, projecting what we think other people think about us. Our spouse, our friends, right? People closest to us, our partners who we work with. And we constantly try to live up to who we think they think we're supposed to be. And you guys, that is exhausting. It's impossible. And it's also something that's more in our head than it is a reality. We've done past talks on the projection of a projection, if you want to go deep on that one. But at a high level, you're not that. Matter of fact, the more you try to be who other people think you should be, the further away you get from who you really are by definition. By definition, if you have to try to be who other people think you're supposed to be, you're not being who you're meant to be, by definition. There's only one you. So the only way to be true to yourself is to be you. Everybody else is already taken. So that's who you're not. So if we're not what we do, we're not what we own. We're not our achievements. We're not who culture or society expects us to be. We're not even who those closest to us want us to be. Well, then who are we? We're who's left. Right? We're who's left when you just strip away everything that's been layered onto us. I think the whole irony of the perpetual journey of self-awareness is it's not about learning who we are. I think it just comes down to having to unlearn all the layers of who we're not that have been pushed onto us through all our time on the planet. Hopefully, sometime, hopefully in our lifetime, we shift the script, so to speak, worldwide and maybe peel back the pressure of some of these external expectations to make it a little easier to peel back the layers. But in the meantime, we got to do the work to peel back the stuff that's been put upon us by everybody and everything around us. And if you want the simple version, it's, hey, we are not anything external. At the end of the day, we're only what's internal. And that's how we be true to ourselves, is constantly checking in. Maybe not who am I, but who am I not? And is the action I'm taking is who I'm being in this moment? Just because of all those things that we just mentioned, and maybe others that we didn't, that are external? Or am I truly being who I am, who I was created to be? Because at the end of the day, that's all who we're meant to be, that's all who we need to be, and that's all the world wants us to be. So guys, there's my thoughts today, getting into the concept of identity. I told you it'd be an important one. And my challenge to all of you is, hey, make sure we're not trying to associate who we are living up to all the things, right, that we know we're not in every way that we do. And by showing up true to ourselves, guys, I promise you, not only are we going to get a better outcome, but we're going to have more enjoyment, more fulfillment in the process. And you're going to find yourself attracting the people around you that you want around you, the people that are around you because of you being you and no one else. Until the next time we talk together and walk together, guys, hey, everybody stay safe. Hope all is well in your world. And here's to you being you, right? Because that's who the world created you to be. Take care, everybody. Hey guys, one last thing. I'm super excited that this new podcast, Alive by Design, just went live. You see, I designed the show to bring you inspired thoughts and fascinating conversations with the world's most impactful people, to provide transformative principles and practices to help you wake up, move toward your meant to, and feel fully alive. And I'd love for you to help me spread the word now. Simply subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on this platform right now. So if I've ever given you value, please do me this personal favor and go subscribe now. And if you found today's episode helpful in any way, make sure you share this with at least one friend today. You have the power right now to change someone's day. So send them a text message with a link to alivebydesign.com, or simply copy and paste the link right from this podcast platform. Who's one person you know right now that you want to see succeed, that you want to see grow, that you want to see feel more alive? Shoot them a text with your largest takeaway from today and be a light in their day. And if you were referred here by a friend, make sure you shoot them a text back and say thank you. I'd love to hear from you directly on what you got from today's podcast. So if you're up for it, drop by my Instagram @BlakeMallon and shoot me a DM. And as always, thank you for showing up. I'm grateful for you, and I hope our time together today in some small way helped you feel a little more alive. Until next time.